All right, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video, another NBA regular season video. We have 4 games from the last 2 days that I want to talk about. We also have some NBA news, some trade rumors, some trade demands. We're going to talk about all that stuff in this video. We're going to try to get through all of it. We're going to talk about a majority of these games. A lot of them were very entertaining. So if you like what I say, like the video. If you have any opinions, comment it down below. And if you just like the vibes, consider subscribing. So the first game I want to talk about here is sort of a quicker one that we can just get through, hopefully a little quicker. The Milwaukee Bucks in Philadelphia to play the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, prior to this game, it was announced by ESPN's Shams Charania, NBA lead insider, that the Milwaukee Bucks and Giannis are collaborating on finding him a new home, whether that be this trade deadline, which is next week, the 5th of February, or in the off season. And they've put it out there. Offers have come in. It's known out there that Giannis will be traded in the next 6 to 10 months. So that was the prelude to this game, and Giannis is also out of this game dealing with a knee injury that he sustained in a couple games previous to this one. So that's what's going on with Giannis. I'm gonna be honest here. That rhymed. I'm gonna be honest. I don't really care about the Giannis stuff anymore. We've heard so much stuff over the last like 12 to 14 months that I just don't care anymore. And then like when I saw that tweet yesterday from Shams and it said this trade deadline or this off season, my mind immediately went to the off season. I do not think this Giannis trade is going to happen this trade deadline in the next, what was it, 7 days? What do we like? I just don't think it happens. I don't think you make that Giannis trade mid season and like gut your team. Um, I just don't. I don't see it personally. The, and I, I don't want to believe that's gonna happen because we've been teased about it so much. Like Shams has been putting out the same story for the past however many months, and I'm just tired of it, frankly. And until we get something concrete, like a deal is imminent, like it's gonna happen in the next like 48 hours, 24 hours, I was not about to make a video. Like I thought about it yesterday, like, oh, should I make an impromptu video talking about this? And it's like, what am I gonna say that's different? The Knicks are interested, yeah. The Lakers are interested. Yeah. The Spurs are interested. Yeah. Like there was nothing new for me to say, so I just didn't make a video on it. But we're here now making a video about the games. That's all the honest stuff. If anything happens, you guys will get an impromptu video like you did with the Luca video um, a year ago now, um, where I'm in the middle of the night and I'm like whispering. So we'll see if a Giannis trade happens. My money, if I had to put money down, a Giannis trade does not happen. This in the next week, it doesn't happen. It just doesn't. I would be shocked. I would be shocked. It's gonna happen in the off season. Anyways, so that leaves this Bucks team without Giannis, and that leaves this Bucks team, the current and the future, floundering. Although in this game, the Bucks did look weirdly competitive against this Philadelphia 76ers team. Now, I'm going to give a lot of love to the Sixers in this section, but I do want to shout out some of these Bucks players. Um, Miles Turner leading scorer, 31 points. Um, if this was Giannis's last partner in Milwaukee and he finally decided to have a good game, shame on Miles Turner, but good for Miles Turner too, because he got his money and he's played like mediocrely well enough, and he finally had a good game against, I mean, a dilapidated Joel Embiid, but nevertheless against a top tier center, which I'll give him credit for. He was 10 of 16 from field goal, 4 of 8 from three, 4 rebounds. Don't love that, but Bobby Portis chipped in the starting lineup with 12, so that makes up for it. And yeah, he had 2 blocks and 1 steal on the night, so good for him. Um, Ryan Rollins, man, oh man. I've kept tabs on Ryan Rollins since he was a Warrior, and I never really saw anything special from Ryan Rollins. I never even really thought he was an all-star guard, or not an all-star, a starting guard. And here we are, and Ryan Rollins is the starting point guard for the Milwaukee Bucks, and the Milwaukee Bucks might be terrible, but he's proven himself a lot. I have a lot of faith that this guy, Ryan Rollins, will keep a job for the next like 8 to 10 years. He's really good. He put the ball in his hands. He becomes so electric. His defense is above par, which is good, and he just shows up every night, and he really cares. He really cares, and I think that's something a lot of guards struggle with, is caring. And it's his first year as a full time starter, but he cares, and I have to give him a lot of credit. And I'm not the biggest Doc Rivers fan. I'm not. I'm not the biggest Doc Rivers fan, the Bucks coach. Doc made the right choice by starting him, by giving him the keys essentially. When you have other guys that are a little bit more established, when healthy, like Cole Anthony, like Kevin Porter Jr., who maybe have a little bit more experience in that role of a starter, or even like a switch starter, like a sub in starter at times, but Ryan Reynolds has done really amazing, and AJ Green didn't have the best game the other night. Kyle Kuzma had 17. I guess that's a good game for Kyle Kuzma, and Bobby Portis had 17. Um, Top left of your screen, or middle of your screen, Bobby Portis, Ryan Reynolds, and Kyle Kuzma there for you. Um, and that's about it. The rest of the team kind of sucked. Cole Anthony came in with 10. I feel like Cole Anthony. This might be Cole Anthony's last stop. I don't know. Cole, he hasn't looked right all season, and he hasn't been that spark plug that he was in Orlando. And the Memphis Grizzlies didn't want him, and the Bucks picked him up, and he hasn't played well. Scary times. And Gary Trent Jr., 13 points, 4 of 9 for three, did all he could for this team. They did lose this game, 122 to the Philadelphia 76ers, 139, and that was on the backs of a one of the greatest performances of this team I've seen in, gosh, like 3 years, like where everybody absolutely played out of their mind. Everybody played out of their mind. Everybody played their role, and it looked really good. And this is being very hyperbolic. This is being very overreactionary. If this Philly team shows up, how many games do you play in a week? You play like 3 or 4 games in a week, right? 4 games in a week. 3 times out of every four, and they have like one bad night, like the other night when they lost to the Hornets. This team could go to the conference finals, and that's very overreactionary to last night. It's very, very overreactionary, but this was a game, and my jaw wasn't even on the floor. Like I was like, wow. I was just like watching. I was like, is this real? Am I dreaming? Like, is this the same team? And like they had everybody. Everybody was healthy. Let me run it down for you. Paul George, 32 points. Best game in a Sixers jersey. Joel Embiid, 29 points. Most complete game since his was it second or third knee surgery. Looked amazing. Looked like he didn't have knee surgery at all. I mean, he moves like he had knee surgery. He had a couple knee surgeries, but that touch he has around the rim, and just like getting to the basket, doing is like this little slow dribble, like turn and fade, or just the face up jump shot in your face. Amazing. Looked amazing the other night. Tyrese Maxey, 22. Um, the percentages aren't great on that, but he had 9 assists, 3 rebounds, and let's see here. How many fouls? He only had 2 personal fouls, so he stayed out of foul trouble. Um, VJ Edgecombe, 12. And then the return of the promising young star that was promised at the beginning of this year, that was promised last year, that was never supposed to come along after the injuries. People sort of gave up on him. Jared McCain, man. Jared McCain, 17 points, 5 of 6 from three, 6 of 8 from field goal overall. I don't want to say he won them this game. He got them to the finish line. That's what we'll say about Jared McCain's performance. 24 minutes, came in, had some really not wide open shots, but like shots like he was getting his rookie year. And like over the course of the last couple months since he's been back from his injury, I believe it was a hand injury or a wrist injury, he hasn't really made those shots. And the other night, he made them, and he reminded everybody what Jared McCain, what that moment was his rookie year, can be something going forward. It might not be all the time. The roster's a bit shaky, but being like a six man for Jared McCain might be good for him to get his confidence up and keep doing these sort of things. Get close to 20, shoot the ball very efficiently and keep it up, and you might get your starting spot back. We'll see. I mean, it's a little crowded right now, but we'll see. Um, Amazing. Paul George looked great. I rip on Paul George a lot. I'm not the biggest Paul George fan, but I have to give credit where credit is due. Paul George looked. I don't want to say he looked like vintage Paul George. He looked like a reinvented Paul George, a reinvigorated Paul George. And if Paul George is going to reinvent himself in this back half of his career, um, and he's going to come off this mega deal, Paul George could stick around for a couple more years, and I wouldn't be too mad at it. And the stuff he said in his post game, I really liked as well. Um, Super, I won't say inspiring. Inspiring is the wrong word, but super confident, super engaged with this group of guys. When I think in past scenarios, with other teams, Paul George hasn't really been engaged all of the time, but now he's super engaged with this team. Joel Embiid, same thing, super engaged. Really loved almost everything he did. And the joke, online is like every time he falls, you're like, oh my god, this is it. His career's over, because he's made of glass, his skin's made of paper and his bones are made of glass, and you worry every time he falls down. And every time he falls down, he makes this face, and you're like, oh no. And then he just picks himself up, and he's like, all right, here we go, back down the floor. He does his little jog, and he goes back down the floor, and I I I I I want to say I still am a very big Joel Embiid fan. I love Joel Embiid. I think he's one of the most talented bigs of the last 20 years. You know, and it's in my mind, when I recall my favorite era of basketball, where there was sort of a transition period, but going into this other era, it was Joel Embiid, it was Boogie Cousins, it was Anthony Davis when he was a center, and it was Nikola Jokic. And those are my favorite centers because they did it all. And Joel and Jokic have managed, to stand the test of time, and still be able to pull off all-star performances and be surrounded by this cast of, in Joel Embiid's case, this cast of weird characters that you're like, is this gonna work? And then you have games like the other night, and you're like, oh my god, it does work. It does work. So yeah, it's really good. It was really good, and I was super impressed with the Sixers team, and we'll see what happens. Heading down the stretch here to All Star break, All Star weekend. Maybe they can put together a little run and get some stuff together. But this is a very positive step for them, and I've never rooted against them, but I've had question marks, and they've been answering all my question marks. So we'll see what happens. Big key, and I hate to end it on this, but I always have to say it. You gotta stay healthy. You gotta stay healthy. Even if it means resting some of these guys every now and then, I'd rather them rest and you have blowout losses like that Hornets one the other day versus you get injured in a bullshit Hornets game like that, and you can come back in this game, in this Bucks game, and put the hammer down, put the foot down. So yeah, next game here, Clippers versus Jazz. This will be a little quick one. Middle left of your screen, bottom left of your screen. Clippers versus Jazz. The Clippers won this game 115 to Utah Jazz 103. This was a very entertaining game for about a half, and then the age of the Utah Jazz started to show a little bit, and they just didn't have it. I will say I'll give a couple shout outs here. Ace Bailey looked the best he's ever looked when I've watched him. I've been very critical of Ace Bailey off the court. I think a lot of the shenanigans that went on in the draft were very, very foolish. And now that he's sort of in Utah and he's embraced the Utah culture and community and everything like that, and he's like this. He is an exciting young player for this team, and I don't really know where this team is going. They have first halves like they did in this Clippers game where they look good. Ace Bailey has a good game. Isaiah Collier has a good game. Lloyd Markkinen has a good game. Um, Kyle Anderson, not a good first half, good second half. Bryce Sensabaugh, Kyle Filipowski, 10 rebounds, 8 points. And then they start trailing off. And, I come to wonder sometimes, Um, and also, I founded proof for this thought is that I wonder that we're at the point, we're about to hit midseason where like the Jazz are like, you know what, we're not gonna be that good. We're not even at 10 wins yet. Or well, no, we are at 10 wins. We're not even at 20 wins yet. We're 10 and 15 at home. Let's just pack it in for the season. And I wonder if they give up on some of these games. Most notably, they've benched Yusef Nurkic because Yusef Nurkic was helping them win games, and they said, yeah, nah, he has some type of injury, or he's resting. Yeah, he can't play tonight. Keontae George did not play this game. I think he would have made a little bit of an impact in this game, but we'll talk about the Clippers and their defense in a second. Um, this was the, I've been eager to watch the Utah Jazz, and I'm happy they got to play this Clippers team that's also on a roll. That's had a good stretch here, and I like what I saw from this Jazz team. I genuinely did. I still have some weird roster construction things. Like I thought this year was going to be the year they're going to try to be good, and they've tried to be good. I don't want to make it sound like they've like got blown out every game. They haven't. They've had some really close game. They almost beat the Thunder. That was like what, almost a month ago, like 4 weeks ago. They tried. This is a really like we want to win group, but the construction and like there are so many like overlapping skill sets and like is Lloyd Marketing the future guy? Like, is this team built around him, or like, are we gonna like maybe move him and move this era into like the Ace Bailey, Isaiah Collier, like Keontae George, like Bryce Sensabaugh, Kyle Filipowski era? Like, that's another couple years of being bad. Like, I don't know. It's weird, and it looked weird coming down the stretch of this game, and the game was over with like 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, so there wasn't really much there in the fourth quarter to talk about. But the third quarter, they got absolutely manhandled by the Clippers. They got manhandled by Chris Dunn. Chris Dunn had 5 steals. James Harden had 4 steals. I feel like Chris Dunn had 3 of those steals in like the first like 8 minutes of the third quarter. He was everywhere. He was all over the place. He was flying. And that's the Chris Dunn that I like. The really defense heavy Chris Dunn. And he had 14 points to go with it. But I love the defense of Chris Dunn. I always have. James Harden, 16 points, 10 assists, 4 steals. Ivica Zubac, not his greatest game. Got worked a little bit. 9 points, 7 rebounds. And even watching this game, you could tell he was getting worked a little bit. John Collins in his return to Utah after his little stint in Utah, 11 points. Kawhi Leonard, 21 points. And then you have Brook Lopez, 14. Finally hit a couple threes for you, 3 of 6 from three. And then Jordan Miller, 11 points, 2 of 7 from field goal, and made 10 free took 10 free throws, made 7 of them. So yeah, the age of the Jazz lost in this game. I feel like, and maybe if they were a little bit healthier, they could have won this game. But this Clippers team has been on a roll. I also want to put a spotlight on that. Is that this Clippers team has dug themselves out of what would have been a horrible season. Um, they're 22 and 24 right now. They are trending upwards, and if they can get the All Star break healthy and above 500, I might be bought back into the Clippers. I said they were going to be good this season. They literally have done the opposite of what I thought they would do, or try to do, where they need to start hot and then they could like ramp down a little bit and keep their guys healthy. They started bad. Guys weren't healthy, and now they're getting healthy. Now Kawhi's looking like the old Kawhi. James Harden managed to keep the ship afloat, um, and they're trending very, very much upwards. And I don't want to say they're a Western Conference Finals team, but they're frisky. We'll put it that way. They're frisky. They're frisky enough, and maybe that's enough for the Clippers. All Star Game is in LA in the Intuit Dome at the Clippers' home. I did forget about that, so um, they won't have to go far if they have an All Star in James Harden and Kawhi Leonard. Next game here, a return game for one of the league's greatest players, LeBron James and the Lakers. LeBron James and the Lakers return to Cleveland to play the Cleveland Cavaliers, who have been scraping by, been getting some competitive wins. Well, the Lakers have been trying to do the same. I gave them a lot of props in their last game for having one of the most energetic wins. And this return game for LeBron, the kid from Akron, Ohio, did not go as planned. And there were a lot of stuff after the game. There was stuff before the game as well. They acknowledged LeBron and his return to Cleveland in a Lakers jersey for what might be one of his final times in Cleveland. Um, maybe, well, that probably as a Laker, but there's been some stuff floating around that he might go back to the Cavs. They're open to it. I don't know. That's just all hearsay. That's all nonsense. But the gist of it was that like there was a vibe that this might be one of the final times, if not one of the last times he is in the building as an opponent. One, but two, just all together. So yeah, there's that element to it. But coming off that energetic win that I was so that I praised so much of the Lakers, and then they beat the Bulls previous to this. They're on the East Coast road trip right now. They go to New York soon to play Jalen Brunson and the Knicks very soon, but that's later. That's Sunday. That's this Sunday. They came into Cleveland. The Lakers, LeBron, Luca, the gang, DeAndre and Marcus Smart, Jake LaRavia, Rui Hachimura, Don't Connect, all those guys. They came into Cleveland, right? And they played horribly. It was bad, and there was a lot of things throughout the course of this game. Luca tweaked his ankle. LeBron tweaked his ankle. Luca tweaked his ankle like in the first couple minutes of the game, and then he just never looked right for the rest of the game. Every time they would like zoom in on him or focus on him on the defensive end, or he was pedaling back, you could see he was like grimacing. It wasn't a good look, and it was very bad. And this was such a flat defeat. Nobody tried. Nobody cared. And I don't want to blame anybody individually. People were injured. They got injured throughout the course of this game. But JJ Redick did not have these guys ready to play this team. He simply did not. I don't know if like he just gave up and was like, you know what, we don't have them defensively. Maybe we cannot score them. And then when they did not score him, JJ Redick and the crew finally just like threw in the towel and they're like, whatever. I guess we just lose this game. You can go to 28-18 on the season. Um, the Cleveland Cavaliers won this game 129 to the Los Angeles Lakers 99. Couldn't even get to 100 points. This sorry Laker team. And um, this Cavs team, man, this Cavs team has dealt with a lot of injuries. And I saw the starting lineup for this team um, last night. And I was like, man, the Lakers might actually get this win. And there's no Darius Garland, there's no Evan Mobley for the Cavs. They're dealing with a bunch of injuries dating back to the beginning of the season. Um, there's some underperformers on this team, but man, oh man, last night did nobody underperform. Everybody played well. Um, this starting lineup that consisted of Donovan Mitchell, Sam Merrill, Jalen Tyson, Dean Wade, and Jared Allen. Almost every single one of them was in double digits. Not Sam Merrill, but he's just a shooter. Um, Dean Wade, 11 points. Jared Allen, 17 points. Donovan Mitchell, 25 points, and one of some of the easiest 25 I've seen. Some of the most, I think, some of the like the happiest 25 I've seen from Donovan Mitchell. Where he didn't even really have to try. He didn't even feel like he was pressured to have 25. Everybody was doing their thing, and the guy I've been on all season, I've rooted for all season, Jalen Tyson. He looked amazing last night. He looked incredible. He looked electric. He looked all of those very nice words I could say. He looked awesome, dude. He looked great. 20 points, 8 of 15 from field goal, 3 of 7 from three, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, 1 steal. Um, Only 2 personal fouls. He drew some really hard assignments. He was on LeBron. He got LeBron to like offensive foul him. It was very smart, like veteran savvy play from a guy who was like second or third year in the league. Um, he drew the Luca assignment sometimes, didn't back down, and he was just great. And as I was watching this game, and as I like to do, I'm like, who's he remind me of? I'm trying to think of who he reminds me of. Jalen Tyson reminds me of Derek White. Derek White of the Boston Celtics currently. And I'm talking about Derek White right now, like the best version of Derek White. Jalen Tyson is already that. in his second or third year, and he 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 was the backbone. He was one of the backbones to this win last night. Um, Another backbone to this win, DeAndre Hunter coming off the bench, returning from injury or getting sort of back from injury, 19 points. Naquan Tomlin had some really good defensive plays, 4 rebounds, 2 steals, 8 points. Thomas Bryant got some burn, 10 points. Craig Porter, Tyrese Proctor, the guards off the bench, 7 and 8 respectively. Really, really critical win when you're a team like this, and I've been bagging on them and be like, yo, you need to get your starters back. You can't keep rolling out this group and like expecting good things to happen. And they've said, you know what? No, we're gonna do that. We're actually gonna do that. We're gonna roll out like 3 guys that don't normally start, and they're gonna play well. And they did play well. And I gotta give them a lot of credit. I'm still very wary of where they're gonna be after All Star break. Is everybody ever gonna be healthy together? I don't know. I don't, and it scares me. But this sort of win against like this sort of like maybe like mediocre to high mediocre caliber team in the Lakers is something to like hang your hat on and be like, yo, we can say like we got 2 people out, game 3 of like the semifinals, right? We can sneak a win. We can sneak a win at home. A team could come in here kind of lazy, kind of lackadaisical, and they could come in. We could stand at home. We could stand strong at home. So yeah, for the Lakers, man, it's rough out there. The defense looks worse day by day, week by week. Um, LeBron was not having a great game before he got injured, and then after he got injured, he didn't look great at all. Um, 3 of 10 from field goal, 0 of 3 from three, 5 assists, 6 turnovers, 11 points. He got ran out of the gym as the oldest player on both rosters. He got ran out of the gym. You can see him bottom right getting absolutely uh, manhandled by Donovan Mitchell there, bottom right. Jake LaRavia, 6 points. DeAndre in 10 points, 4 rebounds. Yep. Yep. There's a conversation going around that this is DeAndre Ayton's last year in the NBA. And as somebody who is a former DeAndre fan who watched every minute, almost every minute of his time in Phoenix when he got drafted, and then a little bit of him in Portland, I could have told you this. I said this in my video when they got DeAndre, and I was like, either Lakers fans are going to love him, or they by midseason he's going to be one of the most hated Lakers. And it has been he is one of the most hated Lakers, possibly of the last like 5 years. Hated. This was one of the defining games for him in a bad way, where he just didn't want it. He just didn't want it. He literally just didn't want it. There was a play where the ball, I think it was Luka or LeBron, shot the ball a little, like passed him the ball a little low, and he's a big man. He's supposed to be able to like catch these passes, right? Mittens, absolute fucking mittens. Like we're talking like winter glove mittens, like no traction, like wool gloves, like no traction at all. And he dropped it a little low, and like Jalen Tyson or Donovan Mitchell came by and like jumped the pass a little bit, like he fumbled it and it just fell out of his hands, and he just like gave up. It was oh, okay, well, whatever, and didn't even make a face. Like normally, like when a big does that, they like clap their hands and they like shake their head. He was like okay, and just ran back down the floor and like did nothing on the defensive end. Like it was stupid. So yeah, is this DeAndre's last year in the NBA? When you let me tell you something, you can do it bad a lot of places. You can be like an underachieving lottery pick in a lot of places. If you're trying to revive your career and you don't you and you know you have low energy and you know that you're dependent on LeBron and Luka to get you the ball, or dependent on a guard or just anybody who facilitates the game to get you the ball, do not go to LA. Do not get exposed. Do not have the biggest spotlight you could possibly have in the league next to like New York or Boston. Like just don't. Just don't do it. And DeAndre did the Cardinals thing. He went to the Lakers. He has the biggest spotlight on him, and he's being laughed at. He's being made fun of, and he probably will be out of the league next year. And I wouldn't be surprised if he's just done with basketball because he got his paycheck from Portland. He got a little money from Phoenix as well, and this is his third team, and he's in year what maybe 8, 9, maybe 10. He'd be good. He'd be fine. Marcus Smart, 2 points. Nothing. I didn't even feel the Marcus Smart's impact this game. Luka Doncic, 29 points, 12 of 20 from field goal, 3 of 8 from three. It wasn't a great game for Luka. He looked he looked lazy, and that this is coming from a guy who's one of Luka's biggest fans. He looked absolutely lazy. He looked bad, and the injury didn't help. And yeah, no, it wasn't great. And then the bench, you got 11 from Gabe Vincent in a loss. Great. Yeah. Okay. Let's move on. This is nothing to talk about. Moving on to the last game here. Um, Spurs versus Rockets. The Spurs going to Houston. A little road trip for them from San Antonio, and they go to play the Rockets. And I'm gonna run you through this very quickly because it's really about the second half and the last quarter. The Rockets looked great. They looked great the whole first quarter. The Spurs looked really bad. I was sitting there questioning, is Mitch Johnson the right coach? Why do the Spurs look bad? Like, why is Wemby playing bad? Like, why is Harrison Barnes out there? Like, why are we playing some of these guys? And then, like, also, maybe they need a more dynamic scorer. I heard some talk from another podcast, the Just Ballin podcast. Maybe there's a Michael Porter Jr. trade in their future. That seemed interesting to me, especially this game. The Rockets are playing some of the best defense I've ever seen on Victor Wembanyama. And it got to halftime, and I was like, man, this Spurs team might get blown out. They might call it a night early. And this Spurs team, this young Spurs team, they didn't give up, man. They did not give up. They played some of the most inspired and gritty basketball I've seen from this group against a far more veteran and far more accomplished group in the Rockets that I've seen all year from them. Um, it started in the first half, a little bit towards the end of the second quarter, where Luke Cornett really started getting more minutes from Victor Wembanyama, who was sitting on the bench, brought some energy, brought some life, had 0 points. Luke Cornett, the backup center, had 0 points, but he brought some energy, he brought some life, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 block, just brought some energy, just brought some intensity to the game, you know. Um, and then get to the third quarter, some guys start heating up. They really start cooking. I mean, some of these guys have really high, really about average, for their season totals. But really started getting going in the second half. De'Aaron Fox 18, Stephon Castle 16. We're gonna talk about him again in a minute. Um, let's see, Keldon Johnson 17. Um, Dylan Harper 16. He was big in the fourth. Bring some energy to the third though, and I do want to shout out Victor Wembanyama, and Victor Wembanyama needs no introduction. The star of the San Antonio Spurs, um, the long-term future for the Spurs. Um, I've criticized Wemby a little bit. I think sometimes he settles a little bit too much. He does some of these things we're not quite happy with what he does, the shots he takes, and he was getting like grabbed, pulled, thrown to the floor all first half. And like I said, he got benched in the second quarter, and Luke Cornett came in for him, and you could see him sitting on the bench, and he was like, I want to say dissecting, but he was like digesting the game. He was like, okay, this is what they're doing. I need to be better next half. He came out, and I do not recommend this for any center that's like 7 foot plus. He came out. He's like, you know what? They're playing hard. They're like grabbing me. I'm gonna start grabbing people. I'm gonna start diving on the floor. I'm gonna start going for blocks I shouldn't go for. And Victor had himself a half. He looked sensational. He looked really like he's naturally gifted and physically gifted on defense. But you could tell he was playing with some spirit, some like guts, some like I don't care. I'm just gonna throw myself on the floor. And again, I don't recommend that as a 7 footer, but he was doing it. I was so proud of him that he took the good guy like persona off for a second. He's like, I want to win this game. I want to beat the Rockets. I want to beat Kevin Durant, you know? And he had 28 points, 16 rebounds, 3 assists, 4 turnovers, not great. 5 blocks, 2 steals, um, 4 personal fouls. That's why he was sort of benched in the second quarter as well. Ended the half with 3, I believe, the first half. But he looked so. I've never seen that version of him where he was just throwing himself on the floor. Like I felt like he was on the floor like every 2 minutes. There was a loose ball, there was something. He was diving out of bounds. He was doing all the little things that you don't expect from a guy who's like the franchise player, who's like is his third year in the league. He really isn't supposed to be like sacrificing his body like that, but he was, and he did tweak his ankle. I believe it was the second quarter. Um, Came back in, tied his shoes a little tighter, and did what he had to do. But I was really proud of Wemby, where he just went out there and did what he had to do. He had the guts to do it, and that gives you a lot of points in my book. Um, Also, Stefan Castle had probably the best defensive performance I've seen from him, like ever, dating back to his college days. Like he looked really good. He did not back down. Him and Wemby were just like out there just trying stuff. They were just like they would get the switch from Stefan Castle onto somebody else, like on the Alperen Şengün, who's like a foot taller than him almost, like on the Kevin Durant, who's definitely more than a foot taller than him. Like, and it was just wild to see Stefan Castle like not back down. He was smart about it. He kept his center of gravity low on Kevin Durant. He was fighting over the screens. He was standing tall when Şengün had him posted up. It was an amazing effort from Castle and Wemby and Castle giving it all, giving it like 110%, inspired some of these other guys in the second half. Keldon, we already talked about. Harper, we already talked about in the teens. Really, really great stuff. And I still have my questions about the Spurs. I still do. But they silenced some of those questions last night. We're heading into the rough part of the season, and if they got to get rough and dirty, these Spurs, I believe they can do it now. And they're not just going to give up on a game, and that's going to be very beneficial for them later on down the line. Now to the Rockets. Um, as I just went on this tirade about how positive the second half was for the Spurs, you know what that means. It was very negative for the Rockets. They could not throw it in the ocean. They could not get the lid to come off the basket. Whatever analogy you want to use for the ball not going in the basket, you can use because it was rough, man. And Kevin Durant did his thing, 24 points like he always does. Ahmed Thompson with 25, probably the ugliest 25 I've seen in a while. Just ugly. 11 for 23. Knows no. I feel like he took threes. He took a bunch of mid-range shots that he shouldn't have taken. Bad. He had 4 steals, 4 assists, 7 rebounds. It wasn't enough though. Şengün also had a bit of an injury. Um, Throughout the course of this game, he ended the game with 18. He really didn't look the same when he came back. 7 of 20 from field goal, had 10 rebounds, 7 assists, 2 steals, not great. Tari Eason like a quiet 10, Jabari Smith a quiet 8, and then nobody off the bench could give him anything. I mean, Reed Shepard tried. He tried his butt off. 9 points, but it wasn't enough. And they got outworked. They got outworked. The same way the Cavs outworked the Lakers, like I just talked about, the Spurs outworked the Rockets. And you would expect when I think of the Rockets, I think of an energetic team that gets a lot of rebounds, that pushes the pace, and they were pushing the Spurs shit in, and then the Spurs were like enough of that and pushed it right back at them, and they got it the worst the Rockets did, and tend this section here. Um, I was thinking about this Rockets loss and what it means in the grand scheme of things. And grand scheme of things doesn't mean anything to the record or anything like that. But I was thinking about the makeup of this team. And I was thinking about the stuff that came out before this game. Before this game happened, it was reported that Steven Adams is going to miss the rest of the season with a left ankle surgery. And not to be pessimistic, but that's probably it for Steven Adams in the NBA. He's had a couple lower extremity injuries, and he hasn't really looked the same recently, and he's far past his prime now, and this might be the end. That being the not the least of the words, but that just being a footnote, right? Um, as of now. But when you have these things that are happening to the Rockets, right, and the window to win with Kevin Durant is this year and next year, right? On paper, maybe there could be one more year in there where Kevin Durant signs a 1 year deal, but it's this year, next year. And I look at this team and I look at the guys around them, and the dominoes are falling in a bad direction where you start the season, um, Fred VanVleet is injured, not going to play at all this season, right? Then, like, there are the things that Dorian Finney-Smith is not taking particularly well to his rehab, and there are setbacks, and he finally started playing like last month. Um, in this game, he had 0 points, played 19 minutes. And then you get the Steven Adams thing, and then Ahmed Thompson has a bad night where when he was at the 3 point line, they were sagging off Ahmed Thompson so hard. There was a time where Wemby was switched on him, and Wemby was like, "Yeah, I'm not worried about him. He can stay out there." And he took a lot of bad mid range shots, and when Shangun has a bad game, and Jabari Smith has a bad game, literally like a no show game, I begin to get very concerned about this Rockets team. I begin to get extremely concerned because the, the window's now. There is no like, oh, let's wait, let's see what happens. Kevin Durant's not getting any younger, and he's still the same player more or less, but he's not getting any younger. And I begin to grow very concerned that like maybe this Rockets Kevin Durant relationship is like a couple years too early, or maybe that they shouldn't have traded for Kevin Durant at all, and they just weren't ready for this, And the dominoes fall where they are. It's been a bad stretch for the Rockets. They have a lot of bad luck, but that's a part of winning a championship. And I've said this: winning a championship is like 50% the team, the roster, the construction, the chemistry, all that stuff that's on the floor, that's visible, and then 50% of it's luck. You just gotta get lucky. And the Rockets have not looked lucky. They've looked awful. Like there was a stretch a couple weeks ago where they played some bad basketball, awful. And I grow increasingly more concerned. One of my favorites to make the Western Conference Finals in these Rockets, where at the end of the season they might not have enough bodies, they might not have enough bodies, and they've swung on Dorian Finney-Smith, who's supposed to be like a starter for them, and he just hasn't shown up. And like I like some of these guys on the bench. I like Clint Capella. I think he was decently okay in Atlanta last year, and he just hasn't done anything this year. I like Josh Okogie, 0 points though. Um, I like Dorian Finney-Smith when he was in Dallas. I did. I like Tari Eason a lot. I don't like Reed Shepard too much, but he's had some good stretches. This was one of the bad blips in the season, but yeah, just concerning. And the San Antonio Spurs won this game, 111 to the Rockets, 99. Could not even get to 100, just like the Lakers. Okay, here at the end of the video, running a little bit longer than I thought I wanted to, but I do want to get through some. Sorry about that. Some more technical difficulties. Um, like I was saying, I want to get some trade stuff here, some trade rumor stuff, some actual like trade like demands and like stuff like that. One of the first ones I saw the other day, yesterday, a matter of fact, was that Jeremy Shohan and his camp have received permission from the Spurs to explore a new home away from San Antonio, per um, Mark Stein, NBA correspondent for ESPN, New York Times guy. Um, and I quote: leak sources say that Jeremy Shohan and his representation have received permission from the Spurs to explore the landscape for a potential new home via trade. Um, you're probably not going to hear a lot of discourse about this, but Jeremy Shohan being one of the guys who was a pre-Victor Wembanyama era guy, who I never really understood what he did. Like, no offense, like Jeremy Shohan's like a halfway decent defender, and like he does some like high IQ things, we'll say. I literally watched him play even before Victor Wembanyama got there, and I was like, what does he do? What does he realistically do for your basketball team? He doesn't shoot. He doesn't really handle the ball. I guess he rebounds a little bit and like he plays defense, but like I can get 1 million of those guys. Those guys exist all over the NBA. You know, like I don't know. It's an awkward situation, and I feel bad for Jeremy, but like he's a change of scenery is definitely needed. Um, we already talked about the Steven Adams stuff. That's very unfortunate. Um, this is reported by Chris Mannix. The Warriors are willing to offer Jonathan Kuminga, Jimmy Butler in a headline package with all of their draft picks for Giannis Antetokounmpo. Um, duh. I would throw everything at the Bucks. I'd be like, hey, you can have whatever you want. You can have Draymond too if you want him. Just kidding. And we need Giannis. We need it. Some other stuff from Evan Siderly here, a guy who's been popping up a lot of my timeline recently. This one I found particularly funny because I've always not liked this player. On the floor, off the floor, I don't care. He's probably a nice guy, but on the floor, I always hated his game. I never cared what anybody said about him. I never really cared. Zach LaVine is now likely to stay with the Kings past the trade deadline due to generating no interest. Sacramento aggressively shopped LaVine, but no teams outside of the Milwaukee Bucks explored a potential fit via trade. LaVine will become a $29 million expiring contract this summer. Yeah, I never liked Zach LaVine. I never understood the hype. I liked him in Minnesota when he was a nice young player, but after that, I'm like, he doesn't help you win. He's literally Devin Booker if Devin Booker never went to the Olympics and never played a meaningful basketball game in his life. That's Zach LaVine. Sorry, Zach. Sorry, buddy. Um, talk about Jeremy Shohan. Um, this stuff out of New Orleans is crazy. This report was yesterday, and then today I got a report also. DeJounte Murray is reportedly open to a new home away from New Orleans, per Brett Siegel. And then today it came out that the New Orleans Pelicans are looking to trade Jordan Poole as well. So it looks like uh, the New Orleans Pelicans are going to rebuild the rebuild. And they're going to go with Derek Queen, Fears, Yves Missy, and maybe down the line, probably not now, but in the offseason, there's a Zion trade about to happen. Because when you do stuff like that, um, it's never good. It's never good to like see that sort of stuff where you're trading a lot of your core and a guy who you literally just got last offseason in Jordan Poole, um, who's gotten back to back DMP's coaches' decisions. Um, there's another report here, something more involved with a team and not so much a trade. Paulo Banchero of the Orlando Magic and Jamal Mosley are reportedly not seeing eye to eye right now. That's not great. I'm so disappointed in the Magic. I felt like they were gonna have such a great season this season. They just haven't. It's been god awful. It's been ugly to watch at times. They've had really good moments though. And then I just want to click on this guy's profile and see if I can find any more news here. Ooh, okay. Mavericks and Pelicans are two teams to monitor for Benedict Mathurin. The Pacers continue to hold conversations with teams who possess starting caliber centers. Daniel Gafford, Yves Missy would be the bigs involved in potential Mathurin swaps. Ooh, you know what I like? You know what I like? I'm forming this in my mind right now. If I'm the Pacers, give me Yves Missy, give me Jordan Poole, I'll give you Benedict Mathurin. Because I could see Jordan Poole and Tyrese Max and Tyrese Halliburton working out. That would be an amazing backcourt. Maybe not great defensively, but it could be great. Could do like a little Warriors like Klay Thompson, Steph Curry impression, you know? That's good. I'm gonna bookmark that one. That one's really interesting. Um, this is a report, another Giannis report. The Heat would be willing to include Kel'el Ware in a trade for Giannis Antetokounmpo. Duh, please. Um, yeah, I think that's it. This video is a little long, so there's one more thing I wanted to talk about where the the Knicks are vaguely interested in, or it's been rumored that they want to acquire Giannis and they want to acquire Drew Holiday. Both of them won championships on the team that both of them won are champions with the Milwaukee Bucks in their time together in Milwaukee. Um, that was something that was floated around. If anything, that seems like the most realistic thing that could happen for the Knicks is that you trade Mikal Bridges to Portland for Drew Holiday, who's making a lot of money. You trade Cat to Milwaukee along with some other stuff, and you get Giannis. I don't think you need Giannis, but if Giannis wants out, you make that call. You make that call and you make that decision. So yeah, that's it. That's the video. A bit longer than I wanted it to be, but we're at the trade deadline time, so these videos are gonna be a bit longer with news coming out and stuff. And yeah, you guys will get a video tomorrow about Unrivaled that I've been ready and very happy to make. And then you guys are gonna get another special video that I won't spoil because I've been sitting on it for a minute now. But it's definitely a throwback video. It's not something current, something a bit older that I want to talk about. So yeah, like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys next time. Cheers.